Hi, my name is Tim and I'm putting the birthday paradox to the test. So for those who may be unfamiliar, the birthday paradox states that for there to be a 50% chance of any two people in a group sharing a birthday, you only need 23 individuals to get together. Now there is a lot of math involved explaining why you only need so few people, and Joe from It's Okay to Be Smart and Kevin from Vsauce 2 have already done a fantastic job of explaining it, so I won't bother here. But to really understand this, you can go check out their videos, links in the description. To give you a simple visual though, you're not just looking to match with one specific individual, which would give you 22 possible combinations. Instead, in trying to connect any two random people, you are looking at every possible pairing, giving you 253 possible birthday combinations. So I wanted to see if a real-world application of this paradox would hold up to the math, but in order to do so, I needed to find random groups of 23 people. Fortunately, 23 is how many there are on a hockey roster, so I looked up all 31 NHL teams to find out just how many times players share a birthday. Now, due to factors such as players on injured reserve, most teams had more than 23 players listed based on the rosters on January 17th, and in total I looked up 767 players, an average of 24.7 per team, so the odds of players sharing a birthday went up from 50 to about 56%. And after looking up every team in the league, 21 of 31 had players share birthdays, or 67.74%. This includes 4 teams that had 2 different dates shared, and 1, the Vegas Golden Knights, that had 3. There was even one instance of 3 players sharing a birthday, as Christian Fischer, Calvin Pickard, and Jordan Wheel of the Arizona Coyotes were all born on April 15th. Well, that seems pretty cut and dry, so we must be done now, right? Well, not quite. For one, 31 teams isn't that big of a sample size, and 2, there is a second part to the birthday paradox. Because repeated dates are so common, even with just a small number of people, it is actually very hard to fill in every day on the calendar when collecting random birthdays. In fact, in order to get enough people to fill in every day, you would need over 2,000 names, as those final few dates have such a small chance of being filled. So I decided to keep looking up rosters until I filled in every date, and in addition to the NHL, I collected data from the American League, Quebec Major Junior League, Ontario League, Western League, Continental League, and NCAA Division I, searching through each league in alphabetical order by city and school name, in total looking up 207 teams and 5,319 players. First, here is a visual of how the NHL fared, with green representing a player was born on this day, red meaning there were no birthdays, and blue indicating a shared birthday. After the 767 NHL players had their birthdays marked off, there were still 51 of 366 dates that had not been accounted for, though surprisingly, February 29th was not among them, many thanks to Chicago Blackhawks goalie Cam Ward. An additional 792 AHL players, based on the rosters on January 18th, resulted in 43 unique dates being crossed off, leaving us with 8 remaining after 1,559 players, and it looks as though each date will get filled in pretty quickly. After all, only 9 of 31 AHL teams failed to produce at least one player born on a unique date. But then, I got to the Canadian Junior Leagues. The QMJHL, OHL, and WHL combined for 60 teams and 1,386 players, and after looking through all of them, again on January 18th, only 6 more dates were checked off. Finally, on the last of the 25 KHL teams, which I looked up on January 19th, the final date was accounted for, as Nikita Tryamkin of the Yekaterinburg Automobilist, and I'm glad it was them because a lot of those teams I can't pronounce, filled in August 30th after searching through 3,647 players. Here's a more detailed look at how long it took to fill in each date. After 233 players, 166 dates were checked off, leaving us with 200 remaining, and it took 231 more to mark off another 100. 321 players later, after 785 total, there were 50 spots remaining, and it took another 244 to find 20 more unique dates. So, after 1,029 players, there was still a month on the calendar unaccounted for. The final 20 started going by quickly, as 5 spots, the 18th through 14th final dates, were marked off within just 27 players getting checked, and after 1,502, there were 10 dates remaining. From there though, unique dates were few and far between. 497 players later, there were 5 dates left, and while the 5th and 4th final dates were checked off within 100 more players, the gap between the 4th and 3rd last ones were 351. it took another 766 players to get the second last date and 433 after for the final date, meaning it took 1,550 random birthdays just to get the final 3 days to fill in every date on the calendar. Following Tryamkin, 2 of 1,666 NCAA players were also born on August 30th, giving that date 3 players total out of 5,319. But that wasn't the date with the fewest number of players attached to it. October 23rd, November 8th, and December 25th each featured just 2 players, surprisingly low totals as even February 29th had 5. Just for fun, here is a heat map featuring every player's date marked off, and it's interesting to see the pattern that emerges, as most players were born in the first half of the year. In fact, every single month featured fewer birthdays than the one that preceded it. Each date ranged from 2 to 33 players with a mean of 14.5, median of 14, and mode of 12. In addition to having every player's birth date marked off, here you can see the total number of shared birthdays as well. Going back to the first part of the paradox, it still held up after 207 teams, proving the NHL wasn't just an anomaly that just happened to feature a greater number of teams than expected to have players share a birthday. With a final average of 25.7 players per roster, you would reasonably expect about 58% of them to contain shared birthdays. The actual number? 69.57%, as 144 of 207 teams had at least one shared birthday, with a total of 238 pairs of teammates blowing out candles on the same day. Now there were 10 pairs of twins, but that was basically offset by the 8 times 3 players shared the same birthday. To break it down, 63 of 207 teams did not have a shared birthday. 76 featured only 1, 47 had 2, 17 had 3 shared birthdays, 3 of them had 4, and one team, the KHL's Moscow Dynamo, featured 5 sets of players sharing a birthday on a roster of just 30. Now the different roster sizes ranged from 20 to 33 players, so let's see how each size group fared against the expected outcome. Here are the roster sizes that fared better than expected, as you can see the size of a roster and the mathematical chance 2 players would share a birthday, followed by the total number of times that roster size was featured and the number of times a birthday was shared along with the percentage. Of the 11 times the actual percentage was higher than the mathematical chance though, 2 times, for sizes 20 and 33, there was just one team, the OHL's Windsor Spitfires and KHL's Sochi HC respectively. There were a few roster sizes that far exceeded expectations, as those of 22, 24, 27, and 28 players all averaged about 1.4 times as many birthdays as anticipated. On the other hand, here are the roster sizes that failed to match the mathematical chance. Like a few of those that did better than expected, there was only one roster of 32 players, the Yaroslavo Lokomotiv of the KHL. Meanwhile, there was a decent amount of teams with 29 players, and just over half had players share a birthday despite having a 67% chance. Now I was certainly shocked at the prevalence of shared birthdays, as I thought maybe half the teams would have one, not over 2/3. Now maybe checking more teams would bring the average down a bit, but for now, my research here shows the paradox definitely holds up. So thank you so much for watching, and maybe try testing the paradox out for yourself, maybe by comparing how many in your class are off a shared birthday. You might be surprised at how many people actually do.